All right, hour two, Sean Hannity Show. 1 week from today, it is Election Day in America, and yep, everything is on the line. Toll free, our number is 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. If you would have asked me last year whether I thought New Jersey would be as close a race in terms of the gubernatorial race, I would have probably laughed at you. We followed the race. We put on the Republican candidate. There was no indication at all whatsoever that there was any movement in that race. But now we're looking at states we never looked at before. We now have a Trafalgar poll that has Lee Zeldin leading, and we'll get into more details on this in the next half hour, leading in the state of New York over Governor Kathy Hochul, the Democrat. I mean, if that happens in New York, this will be a tsunami election, not just a wave election. Another state that I don't think on paper anybody was looking at in the beginning, it is now a dead even race out in the state of Washington. And this is where Tiffany Smiley is taking on the incumbent, Patty Murray. By the way, Patty Murray's time has come and gone. Even the Washington Post gave her 4 Pinocchios for lying and saying that Republicans have a plan to end Social Security and Medicare. At the beginning of this election year, I said Democrats, they can't run on anything that they've done that's successful, so that they have 3 plans of action. And they've all come into play. 1, January 6th, hating Donald Trump. 2, the Dobbs decision. That's now backfired because so many of these Democrats, they want 0 restrictions on abortion, meaning that they support abortion up till the moment of birth. That has not gone over particularly well with the American people. Way out of touch with the mainstream. And this is now out in the state of Washington, a dead even race, 46-46, meaning that Patty Murray, might be saying goodbye to her Democratic Senate colleagues, come January, which would be a phenomenal win for the Republicans. One of the reasons things are going so well out there is Republicans have put forward a phenomenal candidate. Her name is Tiffany Smiley. Let me play some of these debate highlights when she went up against Patty Murray, and she absolutely eviscerated her on the debate stage.
I am here to unify, to bring us together, to serve this country. This is not about politics. This is about the United States of America. She stood by Joe Biden with the American Rescue Plan and said, we are in a better place now. In every room I've been into in Washington State, I've been in all 39 counties. I've listened to thousands of voters across Washington State. I ask, are you in a better place? They say, no, we are worse. For me, it was truly in that fight that I knew we have so much more to fight for. I have a record of taking on big government and winning. My opponent doesn't. She works for Washington, D.C. She is the image of big government. Washington State deserves better.
All right, there you hear it. And look, you are, in Patty Murray, you're looking at a career politician, the most senior senator from the state of Washington. She's been there since 1993. She is a 99% Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer supporter. In other words, everything that's gone on in terms of inflation, record gas prices, wide open borders, woke education versus classical education for your kids, defund, dismantle, no bail laws. She's anti-American energy. I'll never forget the time in 2002 where she actually praised Osama bin Laden, saying he's been out in these countries for decades, building schools and building roads and building infrastructure and building daycare centers and building healthcare facilities. And people are extremely grateful. He's made their lives better. We have not done that. She said that about Osama bin Laden. You can't make this stuff up. And she pretty much avoids the people in the state of Washington, does little to nothing. She has very radical education policies, completely woke, everything from CRT on down. She voted against a Republican measure to limit or prohibit federal grants from going to local governments who DAs choose not to prosecute crimes. Look, on the issue of abortion, she's another radical, no restriction whatsoever. And she's done nothing but exacerbate the inflation, by supporting the Biden economic and energy, policies, which are a disaster. Anyway, Tiffany Smiley now neck and neck. It is a dead even race in the state of Washington. Words I didn't think were coming out of my mouth this election year, but it's now true. This is now a reality. This is going to be a fascinating race to watch. I like that you challenged her on her vicious, unfair attacks against you. A lot of candidates don't respond to attacks, and I think every candidate should.
Yes, no, thank you, Sean. You're absolutely right. Senator Murray has failed us, and she went negative in June, trying to use the January 6th as a threat to democracy and putting my name, sparing my name across Washington State. So I held her to account because she is a part of the problem.
Were you in Washington on January 6th? Did you breach the Capitol? Were you rioting that day?
No. I was sitting at home with my family, describing to my husband, who lost his eyesight serving our country, what was unfolding. So Senator Murray has.
By the way, we were condemning it in real time on this radio show, just for the record.
Yes, I mean, it's just absurd what she, has done and was doing, and that's exactly why she will lose. Because I've been out sharing our message of delivering results, reining in the out of control spending, lowering gas prices, working on crime. I'm honored. I'm endorsed by WACOP's Fraternal Order of the Police out here in Washington State. They know I have their backs. When I'm out talking with Democrats and independents, their number one issue is safety. They've never felt more unsafe in their communities. Senator Murray came back to Washington State and mocked me for standing up against crime. That's exactly why we'll win this race, Sean. She's completely out of touch. She's not around. She's not engaged with the voters. I've been at this for 18 months. I've been in all 39 counties listening to voters, sharing our message. And we're coalescing together. I'm traveling all over Washington State in these final days. And hundreds of people are showing up to say, we're behind you, Tiffany. It's time to change Washington State.
Well, it's an amazing transformation. What are the people in Washington, how are they feeling about inflation? How do they feel about open borders? How do they feel about record high gas prices? How do they feel about woke education and gender identity and CRT taught to their kids? I know Washington State is a little bit more liberal than, say, Texas or Florida, but I don't think they're that woke and that liberal, are they?
No, it's common ground. We're meeting on common ground to deliver results. I mean, they are deeply worried about the rise in crime. They're worried about gas prices. We have some of the highest gas prices in the nation in Washington State. The open porous border, in every room I go into, someone is affected by the fentanyl crisis. And, Senator Murray fails to acknowledge that we have a humanitarian crisis at the southern border. She does not address the fentanyl that's flowing in. It's not just in our homeless encampments and on our streets. It's in our schools. Every week I hear of a funeral of a young kid from Washington State who's died from taking one pill. This is exactly why Senator Murray will lose. She doesn't address it. She's not talking with the voters about it. She's for an open, porous border. She voted against more funding to stop the opioids and narcotics from coming across our southern border. I mean, she's completely out of touch. When I said she is the image of D.C., that's exactly who she is. She just goes along to get along. She's a part of Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer. She's just a rubber stamp that's harming Washington State. So we're meeting in that middle ground. These aren't Democrat or Republican issues. They're American issues. It's about the livelihood of our kids and electing a leader who will actually go do the work. What's interesting as well? Senator Murray's been there for 30 years, and she's actually only penned and passed into law 9 bills with her name on it. So I tell all Washingtonians, that means she's not working for us. Not only that, she's not willing to work with Democrats and Republicans. She's so extreme that she cannot get anything through, and it's time to turn the page here in Washington State. Anyone can join us at smileyforwashington.com because this is about the United States of America. Like I said in my debate, this is about bringing us together and reminding the world and reminding each and every one of us that we are more alike than we are different. And the United States of America is the shiny beacon on a hill.
Well, first of all, our best to your husband, who's a hero to this country. I see you're on a bus tour, and I think it's probably one of the funniest lines I've ever seen in any campaign, and that's saying a lot. There's a new mom in town, and it's you. I thought that was very, very clever, funny as well. Great debate, and we're going to continue to follow this closely on radio and TV. This could be, along with Lee Zeldin, if he wins the governorship in the state of New York, 2 of the biggest upsets on election night. Tiffany Smiley, keep up the good work. We're watching closely, and we wish you the best on the campaign trail. It would be a huge win for the Republican Party if you can pull this off.
Yes, we will pull it off, Sean. I know from the intensity and the groundswell on the ground. So just a few more days, and we'll continue to deliver. Thank you.
Speaking of Washington State, we have Charlene standing by from Washington. Charlene, how are you? Did you watch that debate?
I'm doing great, Sean. I watched the debate with Patty Murray and Tiffany Smiley, and flat out, I was disgusted because Patty Murray lied over and over when she kept going after the Republicans on Social Security and Medicare. What funds Social Security and Medicare? It's payroll taxes. Patty Murray.
By the way, even the Washington Post gave her 4 Pinocchios saying she's lying. There's not one Republican candidate, and Obama's out there spreading this lie in every city and state he's now traveling to. There's not one Republican that supports it, has said it, will do it. Period. End of sentence. So it's just
every Democrat has supported Biden, and Patty Murray has been right there killing these jobs, stopping the Keystone Pipeline, paying Americans with tax dollars for the last 2 years to stay home and not work, firing military, firing firemen, police, teachers, federal and state workers. How many jobs have been lost from Patty Murray and Biden in the last 2 years? No payroll taxes, no payments into Social Security, no payments into Medicare. How many small businesses lost? All of that tax money is gone for Social Security and Medicare, and that's how they're funded. And the Democrats don't care.
Well, if the people of Washington get out in the numbers, this could be the tsunami election that many are predicting. I'm not making that prediction. I prefer a more cautious approach, and my cautious approach is you've got to assume that you're down by 5 and you have 1 week left, and you're on your own 20. You've got no timeouts. You got to march down the field 80 yards, cross the plane, kick the extra point. The only one that doesn't understand that analogy is Linda, but everyone else listening to me right now does. And if you act as though you're behind, you have to assume every vote is going to count in every one of these races. I don't care if your candidate is up by 6, 7, 8, 2, 1 in the polls. It doesn't matter. I don't care if they're behind. Get out and vote and do your part. Anyway, Charlene, thank you. All right, quick break. We'll come back. We'll hit the phones, 800-941-SEAN, our number as we continue. At the bottom of the hour, 2 Republican candidates now in the toss-up category that we'll tell you about. We'll also give you some of the new highlights out of the great state of New York. Lee Zeldin now leading the incumbent Democrat, Kathy Hochul. Now, that would be a political earthquake. Listen, I want to tell you about my friends at Lone Star Transfer. You've heard me talk about them for a while, and look, these timeshares now have become a thing of the past. If you're stuck in one, you don't have to be. Lone Star Transfer will do all the work for you. They've done it now for over a decade. They have helped tens of thousands of owners legally and permanently get out of their timeshare nightmare. They also are the only timeshare disposal company that I personally endorse. There are other phonies out there. Don't be tricked by them. Lone Star Transfer. They're the best in the business, A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of 5-star testimonials. Their clients literally want you to know they are the only company you can trust. Family-owned business, wonderful people, great reputation. They deliver first-class customer service to everybody, guaranteeing the release of all liability to your timeshare. They put it in writing. They give you a specific time frame. And with increasing assessments and maintenance fees, there's never been a better time to get out of your timeshare than now. Call today. You'll get a free, no obligation consultation. 833-594-0075. 833-594-0075 or online. It's simple. Lone Star Transfer, oneword.com. LoneStarTransfer.com.
Newt Gingrich here, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my podcast, Newt's World. Most people know me as the former Speaker of the House, but I'm also a historian with a wide range of interests. I enjoy talking with fascinating people across a variety of topics. On Newt's World, we've had some extraordinary guests join us, like former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger.
Ending the war in Vietnam was a necessity in order to help heal the divisions in the country.
John Clifton, the CEO of Gallup.
The world has been winning the war against hunger for 4 decades. In 2014, it switched. We have a serious hunger crisis.
And House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
What I've really found the Republican Party to be, it's the party of the people, the working people of America.
I release 3 episodes of Newt's World podcast every week, and I hope you'll find my conversations engaging and informative, and hopefully we'll both learn something new. Listen to Newt's World on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Newt Gingrich here, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my podcast, Newt's World. Most people know me as the former Speaker of the House, but I'm also a historian with a wide range of interests. I enjoy talking with fascinating people across a variety of topics. On Newt's World, we've had some extraordinary guests join us, like former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger.
Ending the war in Vietnam was a necessity in order to help heal the divisions in the country.
John Clifton, the CEO of Gallup.
The world has been winning the war against hunger for 4 decades. In 2014, it switched. We have a serious hunger crisis.
And House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
What I've really found the Republican Party to be, it's the party of the people, the working people of America.
I release 3 episodes of Newt's World podcast every week, and I hope you'll find my conversations engaging and informative, and hopefully we'll both learn something new. Listen to Newt's World on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
He's not a great golfer. He's a mediocre tennis player. But he's pretty good on the radio. Sean Hannity is on right now.
Let's hit our phones, 800-941-SEAN, our number. We have a minute. We'll give it to Randy in North Carolina. Randy, this minute is all yours. Make the best of it.
Hey, Mr. Sean. You can go ahead and take this one to the bank. You say you don't want to be too overconfident about it, but I can tell you who's going to win this election for the Republicans. It's going to be the Democrats. There's people like me that are basically lifelong Democrats up until this woke culture started. I'm a union steward. I can tell you right offhand, we've always voted Democrat on the urging of our union. This go around, our whole entire shop is Republican. It ranges from basically, what you've mentioned as far as inflation, crime, border, that kind of stuff. But what pushed, I think, most of us over the edge was this woke culture and being told that everything is our fault. Everything since the beginning of mankind is
woke culture, defund, dismantle, no bail laws, open borders, record high inflation that they caused, and record high gas prices that they caused also. They're no longer looking out for the working men and women of America. They try to portray themselves as that way, but their policies are directly hurting people just like you, the heart and soul of this country, union workers that do their job every day and now are paying $7,200 more per year for the very items they were paying when Donald Trump left the presidency. You know what? We can't afford them.
2 years ago, I thought I would never vote Republican again, but seeing what Biden and these radical left people have done to our country, there's no other choice. So like I told you, and like Joe Rogan said, it's going to be like The Shining when the elevator opens. It's not going to be a wave. It's going to be a tsunami. I heard
that he said that. And he's not even a conservative. He literally fights. I'm not a conservative. I'm like, okay, so what? I don't really care. Anyway, thanks for the call. Good luck. My best to your union buddies. And thanks for, just opening up your eyes, because this country we need instant relief. We need some help. We can't continue down this road.
Hannity is on right now.
All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. Toll free. Our number is 800-941-SEAN. If you want to join us, as we told you earlier in the program, Lee Zeldin, New York gubernatorial candidate, according to Trafalgar, is now leading in the latest poll that has come out, 48.4 to 47.6. Kathy Hochul is out there spinning this bizarre conspiracy theory that the crime numbers are being made up by people in New York, when it's her policies of defund, dismantle, no bail laws that she clings to. She's just lying. She said to Lee Zeldin during this debate, she said, why are you so obsessed with this crime thing? Well, let's see. Murder is up 32% from 2019. Robberies up 32% from 2019. Felony assault up 24%. Burglaries are up 49%. Grand larceny up 19.6%. Auto theft up a whopping 148%. So in spite of her saying it's not true and that there are data deniers out there, she's just lying through her teeth. Now, this seems to be having an impact on some of the other races that are going on in New York. One congressional race that is really interesting to me is that of Assemblyman Mike Lawler, and he is going up. He now has a current lead over Sean Patrick Maloney in New York's 17th congressional district. And what makes this a national story is Maloney is the head of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. In other words, he is the guy that Nancy Pelosi put in charge of helping keep her as speaker and elect, quote, like-minded Democrats to Congress. And now he's in jeopardy of losing his job. Anyway, and preserve the Democratic Congressional Majority. An amazing contrast considering that Maloney votes with Biden and Pelosi 100% of the time. Anyway, so it's this fascinating race to watch. And Mike Lawler is with us now. And he's been out there on the bus tour with Lee Zeldin. He was out there with Glenn Youngkin yesterday also. And they're getting pretty big crowds. Were you at the DeSantis event also?
No, I was not at the DeSantis event, but I was with Lee earlier in the day in Rockland County. And interestingly enough, at the same time we were having a Back the Blue pro-law enforcement rally in Rockland, Sean Maloney had Bill Clinton come in and headline an event for him. And we had 5 times the amount of people at ours because voters across this district understand the challenges that we're facing, and they understand that Sean Maloney owns it. As you pointed out, he's voted 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, driving inflation to a record high. He said that cashless bail was his top priority. And we've seen what has happened in New York since cashless bail took effect. Index crimes are up almost 36%, and 40% of those released on non-monetary bail for felony offenses have been rearrested while those charges are pending. Voters want change, Sean, and on November 8th, we are going to be the face of the red wave and not only defeat Sean Patrick Maloney, but end Nancy Pelosi's reign as Speaker once and for all. And it's going to be pretty entertaining on November 9th when Bill and Hillary Clinton and George Soros wake up to the fact that they have a Republican congressman come January.
No, it's pretty amazing. Looking at his current position, obviously Pelosi thought that Sean Patrick Maloney had a safe seat by appointing him the head of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. I wonder if that means he has access to more funds than anybody else because a lot of DCCC money ends up going to other candidates around the country. But I guess in his case, he's going to want to keep every penny.
Well, we've already seen that Sean Patrick Maloney is a very selfish guy. You know, back in January, he sent a memo to state Democrats demanding that they gerrymander New York's congressional map. And they did. And ultimately, it was thrown out in court. A court-appointed special master created a new map. And when the new map came out, Maloney pushed out Mondaire Jones, the first openly gay black man, pushed him out of Congress to run in this newly drawn 17th district. And he did not expect that I would run and that we would be able to put together a really strong race. And since folks have woken up to the fact that he's in jeopardy of losing, he's already siphoned off millions of dollars, throwing many Democrats under the bus. But we are holding our own, and if folks want to support us and help us get over the finish line, they can go to firemaloney.com. That's firemaloney.com to help us make sure that we have the funds necessary to get across the finish line and defeat the chair of the DCCC.
Now, what part of the state is your district specifically?
This is the immediate suburbs north of New York City. So it's all of Rockland County, where I'm from, born and raised, lived there my whole life. I represent currently in the state assembly. Northern Westchester, where the Clintons and George Soros live, all of Putnam County, and 3 towns in Dutchess. And so this is a district, Sean, that Joe Biden won by 10 points, but 50% of households in this district have a cop, a firefighter, a veteran, or a first responder living in it. And they are seeing what's going on. They don't like it. And our polling has consistently showed us ahead in building our lead. Our latest polling has me up 6, and we just need to finish strong over the next 7 days.
We're going to watch the race closely. Assemblyman Mike Lawler going up against Sean Patrick Maloney. This would be another huge, massive upset and an indication of a tsunami election, never mind a wave election. Mike Lawler, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Sean.
we stay in the state of New York, where we have another close race, and this one is a sleeper that is now opened up as well, and that's Anthony Esposito, who is now running for the 4th District of Congress and is, like Mike Lawler, now in a toss-up district, which nobody saw coming. Anyway, thank you, Anthony, for being on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about your race. The same issues seem to be everywhere, and that is record high inflation, record gas prices, wide open borders, law and order, safety and security. I mean, the crime in New York and in small towns, big cities has gotten way out of control. And of course, woke education versus classical education. It seems to be resonating everywhere.
Absolutely. And, you know, you hear from everybody throughout this district, whether you live in the five towns or Levittown, if you live towards the West End, Franklin Square and everywhere in between, people are concerned about three things. And quite frankly, the Democrats are on the wrong side of every issue. And what they're trying to do is make this race simply about abortion. And, you know, abortion's just, it shouldn't be the concern, because what's happening here in New York and the record inflation, what's happened across the United States. I mean, as a retired NYPD, the way I see law enforcement being treated throughout this country, especially here in New York, is disgusting, and it needs to change.
How many years were you on the NYPD?
I got on the job in 2006. I took a leave of absence in 2016, and I officially retired in 2020. I worked my entire career in Brooklyn North and Brownsville, Brooklyn. I amassed over 600 arrests, many of them felonies, and took hundreds of guns off the street. And, you know, one of the things I've been focused on most is Democrats want to focus on penalizing and taking the rights away from law-abiding gun owners. What the focus needs to be is prosecuting these people that are toting illegal firearms throughout our communities, and not grabbing them and having them released the next day because the judges have no discretion.
Okay, so in this race, you've now been moved from leaning Democrat to now a toss-up. It's now, from my understanding, a dead-even race. Where are the specific towns? Now, I grew up, I don't know if you know this, in Franklin Square. That's where I was born and raised. And I mean, it's hardworking, you know, middle America, USA. That's the salt of the earth people that, you know, obey the laws, pay their taxes. They raise their families, and they're getting crushed and killed by living in the second highest property taxed county in the entire country.
Yeah, that's right. So this district starts at the city line. It goes from the city line to Seaford, from the Barrier Island and all the beaches up into Old Country Road. And it's a very diverse district. You know, the district that I represent now is the town of Hempstead Councilman. I represent the five towns, which is probably one of the most concentrated Orthodox communities in the state. And also in Rockville Center, we have the seat of the Catholic Diocese. So this district is very diverse. But, you know, even though we see the numbers where Democrats outnumber Republicans in a large margin, I think that we have communities like the five towns, like now West Hempstead, like places where Orthodox have moved in, and many of them are still registered Democrats because they came from the city. So I think that, you know, we saw in a special election back in April where we had an assembly race that fell right into this congressional seat, and the Republican won with 65% of the vote. And at the end of the day, over 30% of the Democrats that voted in that election voted Republican, and over 60% of the independents and the blanks voted Republican. It's not about a red wave. It's not about a blue wave. It's about a common sense wave, and the Republicans are the party of common sense now.
All right, quick break. We'll continue more with what is happening in states like Washington and New York on the other side. 800-941-SEAN, our number if you want to be a part of the program. We'll get to your calls next hour. Our friends at the Tunnel to Towers Foundations, they've been supporting America's heroes, all their families, since 9/11. Christopher Slutman is one of those heroes. He was a decorated 15-year FDNY member who later became a staff sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, and he was serving our country in Afghanistan. Sadly, he was killed in action by an IED. That it was 2019 when that happened, leaving behind his wife and his 3 young kids. Now, when a first responder or military service member doesn't come home, young kids are left behind. Tunnel to Towers pays off their mortgage to lift that financial burden on that family and bring that family stability. Now, Christopher's family is able to stay in the house that Christopher and his wife chose to raise their kids, the house that the kids feel safe in, the house where everyone showed up to support the family after Christopher's death. And the Tunnel to Towers Foundation honored his service, paid off their mortgage, but it's only because of donations from people like you. The entire Hannity team is committed to $11 a month. That's all they're asking. If all of us commit $11 a month, we'll be able to help everyone that is in need, that has served our country and our communities. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org. That's the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions.
Anthony D. Esposito is with us, running for the 4th Congressional District in New York, now moved into the toss-up category. The amazing thing that has happened in the state of New York is if you take away New York City, where you obviously have a high concentration of people in a very small geographic area, and Democrats outnumber Republicans 9-1. What's fascinating, in the last election 2 years ago, you had a red wave on Long Island, and you had a red wave in the rest of New York, and Democrats, even in New York City now, seem to be fed up with the crime and the lawlessness and the robberies and the gangs and, you know, people being thrown before subways and the knockout game being back in play, and the averages speak for themselves. I just went over the crime statistics. Nobody's safe anywhere, it seems, in the state of New York these days.
No, nobody's safe. And what continues to happen is, you know, instead of, taking the criminals and prosecuting them, we're handcuffing law enforcement. And the answer to the gun violence in New York City is Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams putting signs up in Times Square saying it's a gun-free zone. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. The people who carry illegal firearms and are shooting people all throughout New York City don't care if there's a sign up that says they can't carry a firearm. So the practices that the Democrats are trying to put into place to cover themselves, especially in these last few weeks leading up to the election. I mean, just the other day we saw a memo come down to the NYPD where everyone in transit needs to now work a mandatory 4 hours overtime every shift to flood the subways with police. I'm not sure.
By the way, you have to wonder if that's only for the election. Well, so there's fewer stories coming out to help Kathy Hochul and other Democratic candidates.
1,000%. I mean, just the other day, Kathy Hochul was saying that, crime is not an issue, and the stats are skewed, and we have the wrong information. I speak to people that I've worked with every single day, and I worked in Brownsville, which is probably one of the most violent square miles, definitely in the city and probably across the nation. And there are good people that live there. And this cashless bail and the way that we've treated our city and our state. The minority communities are the ones that are suffering the most. That's where body bag after body bag is coming out of. And I think that we're going to see that come Tuesday, because the communities that they take for granted, the communities that they think are always coming out to vote Democrat, are going to stay home, and some of them are going to come out and vote for Lee Zeldin, and he is going to be our next governor.
It's an amazing period that we're living in here. The idea that, we had Tiffany Smiley on, she is now dead even in a race for the Senate in the state of Washington. Then I'm looking at Lee Zeldin now, a poll showing him up by a little over a point in the state of New York. Then I'm talking to people like you and Mike Lawler. These were historically Democratic districts that look like they're headed red. And if all of this now lines up the way it's looking like it possibly can, this is going to be not only a red wave, but a red tsunami and a complete rejection of the radical ideology that the new Democratic Socialist Party has evolved into. But we're going to follow this race closely. It's for the 4th Congressional District, state of New York. Anthony D. Esposito is with us, and we're going to watch you on election night. This is now a toss-up race, a winnable race for Republicans as well. And one other fascinating statistic on this is that now there's another 15 House seats that have been moved into the lean Republican column just, a week before the election, which is amazing. Anyway, thanks, Anthony, for being with us. Appreciate it. We'll watch it on election night, sir.
Thanks, Sean. We'll see you soon.
800-941-SEAN, our number. You want to be a part of the program. This is getting to be so fascinating. We're going to talk to Kelly Chewbacca at the top of the hour. We're going out to the state of Alaska. Instead of giving money to Don Bolduc out in New Hampshire and giving money to Blake Masters, out in Arizona. Now, thankfully, his libertarian opponent not only got out of the race, but endorsed Blake Masters. This was a big problem. He was pulling 4% in the polls. That gives him a huge advantage now to beat Mark Kelly. Anyway, so we're watching all these races. 800-941-SEAN, our number. I don't know why Mitch McConnell is supporting Lisa Murkowski over Chewbacca, or I guess I really do, is because Lisa Murkowski will support McConnell. So instead of giving money where it's really needed, he's getting involved in an intramural Republican battle, which he should not be involved in.